That was a horrible period. Friends, so many died or were killed during the war. That was and the whole period of World War II was one enormous stress.
"36 million people died in World War II. The world got used to the smell of death, the taste of it. Every country learned to count its blessings in the number of enemy dead. There was no love, no understanding, no compassion that dared to cross the battle lines. In 1945, a weary but determined decision was made by the Allied nations to unleash a devastating final barrage of explosives against the Japanese Empire. The concept was known as saturation bombing. Each month, 100,000 tons of TNT would be rained down upon the Japanese until they could endure the devastation no longer. Even in the face of such a Holocaust, it was anticipated that Japanese surrender would still require a massive human invasion as well, an invasion that would cost yet more millions of lives. That would be the price. It would have to be paid. That was the mood in the world at the end of the war. Buy peace with human lives. That's the way the United States thought. It's the way everybody thought. On July 16th, 1945, the successful test of the world's first atomic bomb at Alamogordo, New Mexico, changed everything. The world would never be the same.
First, it was elation because such a thing could be accomplished. And secondly, horror. That this is a terrible new thing which was brought into the world.
This gave us all a great deal to think about. And to some extent, of course, many of us, including me, thought about this when we joined the project. Why were we doing this? Were we justified in doing this? We came to the conclusion, yes, that we were justified.
Suddenly, saturation bombing was obsolete. The equivalent of 40,000 tons of TNT in 2 bombs ended the war. Probably less than 1/10 of the destruction the original plan would have involved. Even so, the devastation and loss of human lives wrought in a few moments was awesome. The world was shocked by the sheer power of such weapons. And for the first time in history, nations began to think of war as unthinkable. The politics of peace would change as well. Since August 9th, 1945, that's 40 years ago, there's never been another nuclear explosive used against a human life. That is unique in the long history of weapons. Scientists at Los Alamos National Laboratory designed the 2 bombs that ended World War II.
Our counterpart in Russia, who was Flavius, after the war, gave to me a declassified report, which I still have, of all the Russian work on the same subject, of what they had done in Russia, which was perfectly parallel to what we had done here. This is to show that nobody has a monopoly.
It would have happened in any way because it's inherent in the laws of nature. But there it was, a problem to face. And I think we faced it.
We thought the bomb will completely change the whole attitude of the world towards war, that an atomic war is an impossibility. By the way, I personally still think this is true.
Today, the scientists of Los Alamos take the responsibility of their roles in defense and international politics no more lightly than did those who ushered in the nuclear age. But they do so with assurances their predecessors did not have. No weapon designed by those who work at Los Alamos today has ever been used in anger. In fact, today's scientists at Los Alamos work in the certain knowledge that the United States uses their scientific contributions as deterrents to war. As one scientist put it, we don't create solutions to world problems here. We just buy time for the political leaders and hope that they will. You buy time with strength, the Flavius factor. Be prepared for war, and you won't have to fight one. In that belief, Los Alamos designs the nuclear support for most U.S. and Allied weapon delivery systems. The B-61 bomb and the SRAM missile, both carried aboard the Strategic Air Command's B-1B aircraft. The Minuteman, countermeasure to Soviet ICBMs. The Pershing II, Allied answer to the Soviet SS-20 missile. Beneath the sea, Trident, difficult to find, destroy, or even threaten. The cruise missile, agile, low-flying, able to move quickly through a maze of sensors and counterweapons. Over the years, U.S. delivery systems have become extremely accurate. In response, Los Alamos scientists have developed smaller, lower-yield nuclear warheads. The U.S. deterrent force is stronger because it's more accurate, more versatile. But in fact, our country has less nuclear megatonnage today than at any time since the mid-60s. Not more and more, as some try to make us believe. Los Alamos has also been making nuclear warheads safer. Maybe the concept of a safe warhead seems a little out of place, but it isn't. If there are to be nuclear weapons at all, they must be stored someplace, handled by someone, and protected from accidental or even deliberate tampering. Insensitive high explosives developed at Los Alamos will not detonate accidentally in the event of a crash or fire. Tests have been extensive. Along with safety devices and systems designed with other laboratories, such developments have made nuclear weapons safe in handling, safe from accidents, and even safe from deliberate tampering. A sniper's bullet cannot detonate a nuclear weapon. A drop from a plane will not set one off. Even a lunatic with access, evil intentions, and technical information can't do it. And if some band of fanatics were successful in capturing one, they'd find it had turned itself harmless the minute they tried to tamper with it. That's what Los Alamos means by safe. Modern low-yield warheads provide adequate deterrence to war, yet represent less potential destruction. At the same time, the concept of nuclear deterrence frees the United States from the need to support a large standing army. Today, there's no military draft in the United States. The reason is not that our nation is free from any perceived threat of hostility. Nevertheless, men and women in the United States go to school and from there to jobs and get on with their choices of what they wish to make of themselves. Only those who feel that they personally will benefit from the military experience need enter into it. One of the reasons that the people of the United States can follow such a course of personal choice is the U.S. commitment to defense research at places like Los Alamos. Such work has made it possible for this nation to put its faith in deterrence through technology, not a massive standing army. If you want to negotiate an arms reduction with an adversary whose historical record shows that he never negotiates in good faith, you've only got a few choices. 1, trust him anyhow. 2, don't negotiate. 3, disarm yourself in the blind hope against all reason that he has somehow turned over a new leaf. All these seem a little dangerous, naive. There is another choice. Proceed cautiously, letting your adversary know you'll be looking over his shoulder every minute. When that shoulder is thousands of miles away, the only answer is advanced technology, and that's where Los Alamos comes in. In 1962 and 63, scientists at Los Alamos National Laboratory developed the Vela system for the detection of nuclear detonations. The Vela satellites not only watched for nuclear testing from their orbits, but as a bonus, astronomers learned more about our universe, facts that add to basic human knowledge have nothing at all to do with the squabbles that sent Vela into the sky in the first place. As is true of so much of what goes on in a defense-oriented laboratory like Los Alamos, the first master to be served is national defense. There's no question about that. Today, under a directive from the President of the United States, Los Alamos scientists are working on a radically new approach to defense. Devices designed to destroy weapons, not people. The Strategic Defense Initiative has as its goal the eventual elimination of all nuclear arms. But the scientists of Los Alamos take special pride in the fact that some of their work serves only to increase humanity's knowledge of itself.
Larry, is that sample 334 ready?
Together with an archaeologist from the University of Arizona, Los Alamos experts in non-destructive testing use X-ray fluorescence to examine fragments of ancient Maya pottery.
Yeah, it's going to be a good sauce-shaped polychrome. Calcium's a little high, but the rubidium's nice.
Similar chemical compositions among fragments may provide scientific evidence of prehistoric trade routes and settlement patterns. This Los Alamos scientist uses a variety of analytical techniques to determine the ratios among stable isotopes in archaeological specimens. By analyzing the data, she's able to determine the probable diets of ancient humans and animals.
For the Maya, it would be fun to find out whether the elites were getting more meat than the commoners.
Working with colleagues, this information becomes an integral part of broader anthropological and archaeological studies.
Diet and social status.
But it would be more interesting to follow what happens at the time of the Maya collapse.
For whatever reasons, national choice or world political pressures, national defense laboratories like Los Alamos have assembled the equipment, resources, and scientific staff that can improve the human condition, and they've done just that. For example, scientists use the Los Alamos pulsed neutron source to study large molecules. With the information they can obtain here, they'll create new miracle materials for use by everyone. In a building nearby, a Los Alamos geneticist uses the supercomputers on the other side of the canyon to develop a genetic data bank for all the world to use. Here, distillation columns isolate stable isotopes. They're used at Los Alamos and elsewhere to perform medical tests and diagnoses that would otherwise require the use of radioactive tracers. Working with colleagues in England, Los Alamos scientists examine the mechanism which permits some plants to thrive in saline soils. Using genetic engineering techniques, They hope to develop agricultural crops that will resist drought and salinity. This research may prove vital to the health and perhaps even the survival of many people in many lands. The Los Alamos Computing Network is an integral part of virtually every project at the laboratory. Among other amazing feats, it's uniquely capable of turning complex mathematical models into tangible, easily understood color images. This is the binary star, Hercules X1, or rather, an astrophysicist's calculation of its behavior. Molecular rotation energies theorized by a physicist at a university in Georgia are made visible at Los Alamos and shared with scientists throughout the world. We mentioned satellites, surveillance, and treaty verification. Los Alamos scientists have been working jointly with industry to detect detonations anywhere, on Earth, below its surface, or out in space, and to pinpoint their positions. Eventually, there will be 18 global positioning satellites, 4 visible from any point on Earth. Such radio navigational accuracy will be available not only to planes and ships, but to every engineer, city planner, and surveyor on Earth. Another detonation detection system under investigation at Los Alamos is known as infrasound monitoring, a passive system that uses fixed location, ground-based instruments. An underground nuclear test raises the Earth, compressing the air above it. As compression moves upward, the effect grows sharper, eventually becoming a shock wave in the ionosphere. Ionospheric monitoring, another detonation detection system under examination at Los Alamos, searches the upper atmosphere for such disturbances. Both of the last 2 treaty verification methods also show promise as worldwide earthquake warning systems. They'll be used to save lives in many parts of the world. An artificial volcano created in a Los Alamos Canyon represents a first step toward understanding and coping with one of nature's most awesome and destructive forces. In cooperation with the Federal Republic of Germany, tracers released at high altitudes have been used by Los Alamos astrophysicists to study the Earth's magnetic field and the influence of the solar wind in the vicinity of our planet. Another man's examining pulsars, stars that emit short-period variable radio waves. On Earth, Los Alamos geoscientists have drilled into the hot, dry rock of the planet's crust. By fracturing the rock and injecting heat exchange fluids, they've been able to extract environmentally clean, dependable geothermal energy. A prototype energy extraction plant has been put into operation in New Mexico, funded jointly by the United States, Japan, and the Federal Republic of Germany. In the Caribbean basin, Los Alamos scientists have mapped sources of geothermal energy and have helped the people of St. Lucia to develop these sources on their island. In Central America, Los Alamos scientists are working with the governments of Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Panama to help identify the extent of their mineral and energy resources. At the same time, Los Alamos economics experts are helping to formulate resource marketing strategies that will boost the economies of those nations. In Nevada, on land already managed by the federal government, Los Alamos environmentalists have found and tested a site whose unique properties offer hope as a dependable receptacle for the safe storage of nuclear wastes. To help themselves with their Earth studies, Los Alamos engineers are working with new and more efficient methods of drilling. This huge apparatus can drill a hole 6 feet in diameter and half a mile deep. This device uses a principle known as spallation drilling. A hot flame shocks the rock, causing it to fly apart. Drilling can proceed at the unprecedented rate of 100 feet per hour in the hardest granite. Some Los Alamos scientists are probing the crust of the Earth, while others send gleaming canisters tumbling through silent, starlit space. And in some unpretentious laboratories, miracles are in the making. This device is known as a flow cytometer. It was developed at Los Alamos National Laboratory. It uses laser technology to distinguish among organic cells as they flow past its sensors. Then it separates the cells from one another for study. This machine is the answer to the cellular biologist's dream. It's one of the keystones upon which future studies of human disease will rest. Using the flow cytometer, scientists around the world are already able to study human and animal diseases with greater precision and hopes of success. At Los Alamos itself, flow cytometry has made it possible for geneticists to compile a chromosome-specific DNA library, reference bank for the identification of healthy and diseased tissue. In another laboratory down the hall, a man works quietly with cytometry data to trace the origins of lung disease, and from there, towards a cure. 2 canyons away, the human face is measured as never before. The testing of protective masks has become a complex and exact science at Los Alamos. People who must work in space and other hostile environments must have absolute protection. Up and down corridors, across mesas, in tiny cubbyholes and giant chambers, Los Alamos scientists look at the sky, at the Earth, and more than ever before, the human mechanism itself. These men learned from weapons studies how to use soft X-rays to kill cancer cells without harming healthy tissue nearby. In this lab, they're learning how plants and animals make use of proteins to cope with metal pollutants. An understanding of this process has become vital in terms of human health as the burden of toxic heavy metals continues to grow in our environment. These people are using laser-based technology to individually identify the huge and confusing number of infections possible in the human body. Nowhere is the new scientific frontier better exemplified than here in this room, where physicists and biologists work in a close union to serve humanity. Techniques developed for weapons diagnostics are put to a radically different test here. As the human sensory system is subjected to light and sound, minute electromagnetic forces are triggered in the brain. Here in this room, those forces are measured and mapped in 3 dimensions. If the mechanism and location of brain activity is understood, it may be possible to imitate that mechanism, and even possible to teach new areas of the brain to serve where damaged tissues become useless. These few small rooms at Los Alamos are very important. In these few minutes, we've only touched on many subjects, each of them the life focus of one scientist or many. To some degree, they all affect your life, and mine as well. The very existence of scientific defense work is a subject of heated debate. Yet no one denies that the very power of modern weapons demands that the people of the world work together to seek alternatives to war. Cooperative behavior, unprecedented in human history. In Rome, 1600 years ago, Flavius put it very simply. To be always ready for war is the surest way to avoid it. That's the job Los Alamos was given more than 40 years ago. The hideous war was ended in days. There's been no war to match its magnitude, its worldwide fury since then. New world, oriented to peace? It's a lovely idea, but world events day after day don't seem to support it, do they? The Flavius factor, then? Peace bought not with lives, but with watchful readiness. So it would seem. And yet, while Los Alamos maintains the balance for the free world, sword for sword, shield to shield, it proceeds also with a host of other very differently motivated research projects. If the world, when the world finally renounces war, the laboratories at Los Alamos still will not fall silent. There's been other vital work thriving there all along.